Okay, welcome back. Welcome to Polly Reads Romance. My name is not Polly, my puppy's name is Polly. But today I wanted to make my second video, and I was kind of thinking about what kind of content I wanted to put together, what I wanted to talk about, and I realized I want to kind of talk about some of my favorite authors' backlists, or the backlists I've read or have copies of, and not necessarily the stuff that's current, but like in the backlist. And I figured that my first video I could do about the Queen herself, Nora Roberts. She's published many, many books, and I have some of them, and I've read some of them, so I wanted to talk about them today. You can see behind me, this is my half Nora Roberts shelf. It has two layers. It's not my best example when trying to convince people that I don't hoard books, but the majority of them are used. I really like that Nora Roberts is so prolific and has published so much, because you can find a used Nora Roberts book most places that sell books. So whether that be a Barnes and Noble, but also Goodwill, a secondhand bookstore, all types of places, they're going to have Nora Roberts. So it's nice because she's kind of a good, easy to find, potentially accessible option for people who are looking to get into what I think are fun novels. So what we'll do is I'll talk about the books that I have read, some of the books that I haven't read but want to read, and just give you like a little bit of insight into Nora Roberts as a writer, my thoughts on her, and hopefully you find it interesting, and maybe you gain some information about her.
All right, so to start, how did I start reading Nora Roberts? Well, I think I actually mostly started being interested in her after watching Mara from Books Like Whoa talk a lot about Nora Roberts. She is a big Nora Roberts fan. She's actually currently trying to read all of Nora Roberts' backlist, so she has lots of fun, good content on there. But having watched Mara for a while, I knew that we had somewhat similar taste in romance novels. So when she was saying that she liked Nora Roberts, I was thinking, well, maybe I should pick her up. And I got some good information from her about kind of what to look for. And then as I started kind of around the same time getting into Harlequin romances, I realized, or I should say category romances, Nora Roberts really started her career in category romances. And so between those two things, I knew I kind of wanted to dive into Nora Roberts a little bit. So Nora Roberts, according to Wikipedia, has published over 225 romance novels. That is so many. She publishes multiple times a year. She's still actively writing. She's 73 years old, and we love it. This is crazy. So she has spent a total combined 861 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list over her career. So she's obviously well respected in the romance community, but also just like kind of general fiction community. So I'm going to give you some of my own insight. This is not going to be all encompassing about Nora Roberts, but I'll just share a little bit of what I've learned about her. I've kind of read some um, big bucket categories of Nora Roberts. First, you have the category romances, right? These short, um, mostly contemporary romances. A lot of these were from the 80s and the 90s. She published through Silhouette, and she became super popular um, through her category romances. Now, you might think, well, these aren't what you buy today, but actually, a lot of these category romances have been bundled up and republished through what I'd call bind ups. So you have a couple of these stories put together in the same book, so you get two for one. A lot of them have this kind of floppy mass market paperback style, and so it's kind of a fun way to get into Nora Roberts because I would say they're short reads, and then you get two for one, which is really fun. So starting with that, this is the first one that I ever read was The Winning Hand, which is one of the McGregor family novels. And it's right in the middle. So McGregor Family was actually one of her, Nora Roberts' kind of breakout books. It's actually, I just had it, this one, Playing the Odds, kind of blew her up back in the 80s. And it was about a woman, Serena McGregor, who falls in love with Justin Blade on a blackjack casino cruise ship. And then there becomes multiple siblings who have their own books. And then a second generation is where this winning hand is set, where their children end up having love stories. So this one I actually really love, so I do want to talk about it. It's about Darcy Wallace. So she is running away from a bad relationship, and she ends up with no money, or she's like $5 left in a casino in Las Vegas, and she uses a slot machine with her remaining money, and she wins the lottery. She wins the jackpot. The casino manager is Robert McGregor Blade, who goes by Mac. So Serena and um, Justin's son, and it's about their romance. Now, this is from the 90s and it's a category romance. So a lot of Nora Roberts' older heroes are a little heavy handed, they're a little intense, they're kind of like alpha ish before we kind of ironed out some of the things we don't love in alpha heroes currently. What I loved about this book was Darcy, so the main heroine. She kind of starts as meek and scared because she's running away from a really intense situation, and over the course of the story she really grows into herself to the point where she kind of is like, screw you, Mac, because I deserve to be treated well, I want to live my best life. And so I really love that. I've reread this and I've enjoyed it as well. The other cool thing about this, and I'm like not a casino or Las Vegas person, but there's a very like Wizard of Oz vibe to this, where she's tiny country girl who ends up in the glittering city and she gets all these luxuries because she has won the lottery. And that dynamic and vibe was just really fun. And so I really enjoyed this. And as a result of liking this book out of the McGregor series, ended up reading a few of the other McGregor stories. So the other ones are the McGregor Brides, which are the remaining cousins, girl cousins of Mac in The Winning Hand, and then the McGregor Grooms, which are the remaining boy cousins of Mac. So that kind of younger generation of the McGregors. And what I really loved about this was that these are not technically bind-ups. They got published as individual books, but there's 3 romances in each. So they're all about 100, maybe 120 pages each. And I love a short story. I love a short romance. Like, let's get on with it. Let's make it quick. So I really enjoyed these, and I got to enjoy kind of the family dynamics of the McGregor family because they're all kind of integrated with each other. You see them pop up in different stories. So this was a really fun start for me, even though it was a little bit of an older Nora Roberts. I was really happy that I started with this, and I just picked these up at Barnes & Noble off the shelf when I didn't know anything about Nora Roberts. So with that, I would say that I do want to read the rest of the McGregor series. And I don't have all of the copies, but I do have, so I have Playing the Odds, which I haven't read, as the Serena and Justin, one of the original books. And this is the kind of first copy printing of this from, I think it was 1985. So you can see that's a really pretty copy. I love that a lot. And then I also have this one, For Now Forever, is a McGregor book, and it's actually the parents of Serena McGregor. So it's, let's see, Anna Whitfield, who's a medical student, and Daniel McGregor, who's like a businessman. So this is even like an older generation. So I have those that I want to read. Before I move on to the other types of books, I do want to just show you some of the original printings that I have. I have this one, Sullivan's Woman, which I'm also excited to read. I think it's Irish. Oh, this one is that the main character is an artist, and he's like falls in love with his muse. So this is a really old one. This was published in 1984. And then I have some more of these kind of copies from Silhouette with the flowers and the reflective Nora Roberts on the front. And then one of the ones that I think is so fun because we're here for the camp is this one, The Heart of Devin McCade. So this with the kind of dark and like kind of looks 45 here on the front is a very 90s style category romance. So that's just very fun. And you can see there's a whole series of the McCade brothers. I haven't read any of those, but I imagine that because I like certain things from Nora Roberts, they'll have a good time with this. And then a couple of the other bind ups that I really love that I think could be a great place to start with Nora Roberts would be, so Book of Dreams is a bind up of two older category romances, and then Here's to Us. I think I got this one at Target. So Here's to Us, actually like the second one better than the first, but they were both good. So the first one is about she's like an heiress whose family loses all of their money, and so she ends up running a girls' summer camp, which sounds bizarre and it kind of is. And then she falls in love with the orchard owner next door. So, not my favorite, but it was fun. The setting was really fun, and you have like little kids running around. And then the one that I really loved in this bind up was called Second Nature. So, you have a horror author named Hunter, and then a celebrity magazine reporter, Lee Radcliffe. So, she's trying to kind of get the scoop on him. He's notoriously private, and he's also a single dad. And so he kind of says, well, I'll give you the scoop if you come camping with me for 2 weeks, which also sounds ridiculous, and it kind of is, but I love camping, and this was really fun. And they spend 2 weeks in, I can't even remember, I think they were in Arizona. So, one of the things I really love about Nora Roberts, and you can get from both of these, is she does setting so well. In good books, you know, the setting is like a character of its own. So, you have like a summer camp, a sleepaway summer camp, where you have all these kind of, you know, beautiful rolling hills and a farm and an orchard and all of that. And she is able to convey that beautifully. And then camping in Second Nature, and a big part of them falling in love is them being in nature and in the wilderness, and I really love that. So these are both really good. And then we have Book of Dreams, which again has two older books in it, but kind of leads to the second type of Nora Roberts books, which are a little bit paranormal. So they're not paranormal in the sense that there's like tons of world building, but there's like a little bit of magic in them. So the first one is called Charmed, and this is part of another series. I have the other one. I'll find it. But Charmed, so Anastasia, she's kind of like a witch. She's like a vague like witch who can, you know, do potions and things, and then she falls in love with her next door neighbor named Boone, who also has a daughter. So it's another single dad romance. We love those. And then Enchanted is the second book in this, and you have Rowan, who is kind of a normal woman, but she needs to kind of recuperate, come to herself in seclusion in a cabin. And her next door neighbor is Liam Donovan, who is essentially like a werewolf or a shifter. You know, again, it's not really that well defined, but he shifts into a werewolf, and they fall in love. So I actually really like this style of paranormal romance because I'm not really into kind of big world building, political dramas. Like, I know some people love that. It just really isn't for me. So I like this kind of touch of magic, touch of otherworldliness. The way she writes it is very ethereal, so it's very like earth driven typically. And so that really works for me, and I really enjoyed these. There is another bind up. Take it down already. Oh yeah. So it's these two, and then the other two are in this one, The Magic Circle, and they're called Captivated and Entranced. So I think the main paranormal leads are all cousins. So those are super fun, and those are also bind ups. And then the last book that I've read that I want to talk about. I actually don't even have my copy with me because I lent it to my sister, but it's the first book of the Inns Boonborough trilogy. So this is not one of the category romances that Nora Roberts has written. She does write some contemporary romances, and this one starts with a book called The Next Always. The trilogy follows, three brothers, one book for each, and the brothers are renovating this inn in the kind of town square. And the first book is about a single mother who has three little boys, and her husband died in the war, I think in Iraq or Afghanistan. And so she runs her own bookstore, and the main male love interest has just been in love with her forever. And it's just kind of about them building the inn, her running the bookstore, him, kind of falling in love with the boys as well, the kids. It's a very like pleasant and cozy read, and I really enjoyed it. And then there are two more books. So the last boyfriend is this one, and then this one is The Perfect Hope. So you meet all of the female love interests for these two in the first book, so it kind of lays some groundwork, and then assumably, I haven't read them, but you'll follow them into the next two books. So the next thing I want to kind of talk about are books that I want to read, because I obviously have a lot of them on my shelf, and that'll kind of lead us into the other types of Nora Roberts books. So we have the category, the kind of old contemporary ones. We have the paranormal, paranora type of books, and then we have like a romantic suspense type of book. And I have a ton of them here. Let's see if I can find some that I want to talk about. Okay, so I have a few, and now that I've been doing this video, I like want to read all of them. And that's probably why I ended up with so many copies of these books, because they sound great. So these romantic suspense books tend to be much longer. So you can see these two, we have Blue Smoke and The Three Fates. They're pretty long. This one is 450 pages. This one's 485. I'm not a huge like chunky book girl, and so that's been a little bit of the reason why I haven't read these yet. So I think I just need to pick one that sounds really intriguing, that I'm in the mood to read, and just start it. I have this one that I'm kind of excited to read. It's a hard copy called Sanctuary, and I don't actually know if it's shorter, if it's because it's in a bigger size book that it looks shorter, but this might be my ticket in because it doesn't look quite as intimidating. And this one, oh yeah, it was published in 1997, so a little bit older. It takes place in like an old inn on the water, so that sounds interesting. And then we have Three Fates. I know that this one follows three different love stories, which is great, and there's like kind of a historical mystery element. Blue Smoke, I'm also interested in. It has to do with like arson and arson investigation. So I'm sure there's more details, but you can see that's kind of a fun step back. And then this one, Private Scandals, I'm also excited to read. It has to do with a couple reporters, and they must uncover the betrayals of Deanna's mentor turned rival by taking the biggest risk of all. This one sounds pretty good too. So we have all of those, and I haven't really dived into that yet. I think that then leads us to our next category of Nora Roberts books, which are actually J.D. Robb books. And this is a kind of like a police procedural, I understand, although I haven't read any yet, that takes place in the future, like in the kind of near future, I think, and it follows two main investigators, and it's a police procedural. So you believe that every book follows the same characters, but has kind of like a different case to solve every time. I do like kind of the police procedural style in a book, specifically in romantic suspense. I haven't picked them up because I don't know how I feel about following the same couple time and time again, but they seem to be really popular. So I have the first copy, or the first book here, I'll read it at some point. We have J.D. Robb. This is probably also a good place to start. And then what do we have left? I guess you could say that we have some paranormal, like longer type books. So here we have Jewels of the Sun and Tears of the Moon. And these are both set in Ireland, and there's kind of, my understanding, like ghosts and mystic type influences in that. So there's a lot of variety in Nora Roberts. I want to maybe give some advice as to where to start. And I think you could start in a few places. I think it just depends on what your reading preferences are. I think with any author, really, if you read the back of a cover and it just jumps out at you and you like feel super stoked on it, do that. Like, it doesn't matter what the recommended starting place is. If you feel jazzed about it, just do it. That's what I did with The Winning Hand, which is the first one that I read. But if you don't know where to start, a couple options. I think you could start with that first Innsbruck book. It was super cozy. It was pretty modern, so it wasn't like anything like, old school romance. And you kind of have like cozy vibes. The other one that is contemporary that I haven't read yet, but I do have copies of, is Vision in White. So this is the Bride Quartet, kind of similar. The Bride Quartet follows friends who work in kind of like a bridal company. They work together and they do weddings. So I assume it's a very similar type of cozy, comfortable, like full length romance vibe. So I assume those would be good places to start. I think if you were into suspense or police procedurals, start with J.D. Robb. And then I think your other option, even though like knowing that their category romance is from the 80s and 90s, I do think starting with a short, 200-page bind up of Nora Roberts, of one that stands out to you, so you go, oh, that sounds interesting, is a good place to start. I do also want to point out the things that I really like about Nora Roberts' writing, because I would say she's my favorite at everything, because she's not. But I've said she does a great job writing about setting. She writes beautiful description about setting that isn't like overpowering. She writes really strong female characters, so even when the male character is like a little bit overbearing, a little bit high-handed, most of the time the heroine is like strong. She's not taking crap from him and usually finding her own way. They tend to be career women, which I really like. And so that's something that I enjoy. I think that she does a good job writing chemistry. Like, even if I don't love one of the main characters, they tend to have chemistry together. So it's believable to me that they would be interested in each other and in a relationship. And then from what I can tell, I think she writes family dynamics really well. So in the McGregor series, all these family members are kind of coming and going, and she does a good job of keeping clear who is who and what their type of character is, even if you're not that familiar with them, while also, I think, writing true to how they relate to each other, and that's hard to do. So I think in some of these other books that are longer, my understanding is that there's more of that kind of family drama, family dynamic, and I'm excited to explore that a little bit more. So the very last thing that I want to do in this video is show you potentially my favorite thing about Nora Roberts books, and it's the back cover. So most of the time, you're gonna have on a regular book, the front looks like this and the back has a synopsis. But on many, many Nora Roberts books, the front looks like this and the back has Nora Roberts on it. Now, I absolutely love that they tend to coordinate the vibe of the book with the picture of Nora Roberts on the back. So you have The Last Boyfriend, which is an Innsbruck book, and she's like vibing in an inn, looking great in her red dress. Then we have J.D. Robb, a futuristic police procedural, and on the back we have Nora Roberts in her leather trench coat, serving for the camera. We have Blue Smoke, a romantic suspense where there's arson and investigation, and then we have Nora Roberts looking so serious about how serious this book might be. Let's see, we have The Liar. This one doesn't really match, but this one is fun. This is another romantic suspense. And then Nora Roberts, chilling in the woods. And then this one might be my favorite because it's the oldest. So this is The Sanctuary. It's my only hard copy Nora Roberts book. And it's another romantic suspense. And here is the queen back in the 90s with her power turquoise suit and awesome hairdo. So it's just one of my favorite things. Remember, we're here for the camp, we're here for the fun. And I just love that Nora Roberts said, I'm not only going to write fantastic books that everybody's going to love, but I'm going to serve on the back of them. So, with that, that's my first author's backlist, Nora Roberts edition. I may do this again in the future if I ever read more Nora Roberts, which maybe not will because I'm feeling a little inspired. But yeah, appreciate it. I hope to get some good feedback. Maybe you have a Nora Roberts book that's your favorite or an author that you're interested in doing a backlist video of. That'd be great. But until next time.